Yes, hello. Thank you, Franzi, for giving me the opportunity to introduce to you a new magazine. So no PowerPoint magazine today, okay? That is a magazine with a, let's say, integrative new view on medicine to understand the relationship between mind and body and probably the relationship between physicians and patients. Let me ask you one question. If a doctor confronts a patient with a severe, with a diagnosis of a severe disease or a chronic disease, the first question, I guess, will be, can you offer me a kind of therapy? What can you do for me? But what is the next question, the second question? The second is, what can I do? Can I do something too for recovery? And they can do a lot, of course. And that is the central guideline for this magazine. We put together the best from, let's say, classical medicine, natural healing, and, very important, behavioral medicine. On a scientific basis, of course. You heard a lot about, new technical devices and digital developments to screen healthiness and therapy. That can do a lot. The patient can do a lot to measure what heart rate, whatever. You know all this. But we're still dealing with human beings. There's high tech, of course, on one hand, but high touch on the other hand. And I will give you 4 examples from the latest scientific result and research about this connection. I've written a book about psychoneuroimmunology, the connections between mind and body 30 years ago. That was in the very beginning, let's say, of psychoneuroimmunology. But now there is a great bunch of research and now it's infiltrating the clinics and the doctors' offices. And now I guess that is the right time to develop or bring on the market a magazine which is especially, focused on that topic. Let's put the patient in a way, more or less in life, sometimes all of us, in the center for a few minutes. What is his and her input in healing or prevention? Communication is a great enhancer in the effectiveness of treatment. A warm smile, a touch on the forehand, and the assuring that everything will be fine. That is important. And the communication within mind and body. By understanding how our minds is influencing our physiology, we ourselves can develop much better ways to cope with the natural challenges on illness and health. And we are not talking about a little bit of yoga here and a little bit of mindfulness sessions here. We are talking about something different. So the first example, let's say Professor Manfred Szydlowski, University of Essen, the head of the Medical Psychology and Behavioral Immunobiology Department, okay? Remember that combination. He's working on conditioning models. So you have patients, the study is on the way, patients after a kidney transplant. And they all, they need immunosuppression drugs to prevent the rejection of the transplant. That has many side effects. You don't want that much. But what you want is to reduce the amount of the immunosuppressive drug, but still have the strong effect. What can you do? The study protocol is very difficult. I'll make it quite simple here. So you first give the condition and stimulus, the immunosuppression drug. And then you combine it a few times with a liquid, green, not very tasty liquid you have to drink. And let's say a song. Let's say, Help Me from Johnny Cash. So you have the drug, you have the liquid, and the song. So for a few times. And then you get only the juice and the music alone without the immunosuppressive drug. And you still get the immunosuppressive effect between 30 and 50% without any drug. So you have to refresh this, of course, sometimes. But what we can learn from this is There is a learning effect that lasts, a placebo response that can heal. A good thing. Second example, Professor Winfried Rief. He is University of Marburg, head of the psychology and psychotherapy department. Only one example of a lot of studies they have done. Patient with a heart surgery, getting a bypass. And this is an interventional study to modify the expectations of the patient in respect to the outcome of the surgery, the time to recover, and how much they themselves can control the success of that surgery. They had 2 psychological interventions, 2 times in-person sessions with a psychologist, 2 phone calls, 1 booster session to modify the expectations, let's say in a positive way. Let's say after 6 weeks, I want to walk the dog again, or I want to work in the garden, and after 3 months, I want to play golf or tennis or whatever you like, or playing soccer. Yeah, soccer is a good example, okay. So the patient has to write a letter to my post-surgery self, writing it down. After 6 weeks, I want to... This is the intervention, okay? And what do you think? Good example. Patient's disability is less. Physical activity is higher. Mental scoring is much better. Working ability better. Much higher is the belief of a personal control. And remember, 2 sessions with a psychologist, 2 phone calls, and 1 small 15 minutes booster session. That makes a huge difference in the outcome of the surgery. Third example, Professor Gabriele Moser, Vienna. He's working with patients with irritable bowel disease and hypnosis. IBS is a very painful and uncomfortable for the patient. They need to go to the toilet up to 20 times a day. They show, of course, signs of anxiety, depression, and stress. They have diarrhea, obstipation, bloating, whatever, very uncomfortable. You can get a medicine, but still the patients suffer from these symptoms, even with the normal therapy. So the question is, so a question for you. Do you think it is possible to heal irritable bowel disease with hypnosis? Please raise your hand. Do you think you can heal that with hypnosis? Well, you can't heal it. You can't do this, but you can reduce the symptoms up to 71% along with the course of the normal therapy, and 81% of these 71% experience the benefit still after 5 years. They got only 12 sessions of the so-called gut-related hypnosis, and that is to strengthen the imagination of a normal bowel function. 12 sessions lasts for 5 years, and the people have this feeling they gain self-control about their disease. And they still need the drug, the medicament, that is fine, but they do not suffer from these symptoms anymore. They have control over their symptoms. The 4th example is Andreas Michalsen, Emanuel Clinic in Berlin, cooperation with the University of Berlin, with a worldwide well-known charité. He's working on trying to see what is the effect of caloric restrictions or fasting cures in arthritis, migraine, and high blood pressure, hypertension. One example only. You have physical activity. So the patient has to walk, 2 times in a week for 20 minutes, and they have to eat every morning a beetroot salad. Beetroot salad is known to reduce high blood pressure. That is a mechanism that is well known. So you eat a beetroot salad in the morning, you walk 2 times, 20 minutes around your neighborhood, and there are dozens of research studies right now. And it's not that you don't need any drugs anymore if you're a hypertension patient, but it shows that you can reduce the amount from 4 different pills to get that high blood pressure under control, you can reduce to 2 or even 1 drug a day. And you have less side effects, of course. They have side effects, these drugs. Less side effects and more self-control. A beetroot salad and walking around in the neighborhood. Just a few examples. I can go on for hours, but probably you read the magazine, you find more examples in here. The point is, the patient becomes an active player in his own health rather than a passive recipient of drugs. He discovers his own mind power. And the communication between doctor and patient is a very critical point. You can really enhance the effectiveness of the normal therapy, reduce the side effects, and encourage the patient to gain more self-control. And communication between mind and body is really a mental booster for the healing process. What's going on in the patient? What's going on in the brain? That's probably what you now really want to know. And the perception of what the patient is feeling, that is, I guess, well, one of the really, I mean, psychoneuroimmunology is difficult, but now we are getting to really a difficult theme. But Friederike Petschner from the University of Zurich, a trained neuroscientist and a big, deep background in physics, be careful, physics, she knows how to do this. It's a great pleasure that you're here, that you're giving a talk to show us the brain-body interactions. She uses brain imaging techniques in combination with mathematical modeling, perception and the brain, interoception and resilience, perceptions and treatment prediction, what happens in the brain. Extremely, extremely interesting. Friederike, the floor is yours. Welcome to DLD.